Have you ever had that feeling where it's like your money has been hijacked? Not from some big disaster, but by like 1,000 tiny little cuts you didn't even see coming? Well, if you're looking for a way to get back in the driver's seat that doesn't involve panicking or punishing yourself, then you're in exactly the right place. Okay, let's dive into what this is all about. So let me just ask you this straight up. Right now, does your money feel like it's out of your control? Kind of like it's just moving on its own without your permission? It's a super common feeling. And if you're nodding your head right now, I want you to know the reason why is probably not what you think it is. You see, that feeling of just being in a financial free fall, it almost never comes from one single huge mistake. We always beat ourselves up over one big purchase or a bad decision, but honestly, that's usually not the real story. No, the real culprit is it's the weight of all these tiny little decisions, all stacked on top of each other. That daily coffee, the subscription you completely forgot about, that late night add to cart. Each one feels like no big deal, right? But together, man, they build up this powerful momentum. And here is the absolute key. All of these decisions are happening on autopilot. Our attention is being yanked in a million different directions all at once, so we're not even consciously choosing anymore. We're just reacting. And when everything's moving that fast, nothing feels clear. So what's our first move when we finally notice this chaos? Well, for most of us, it's to hit the panic button. We decide we're going to fix everything like right now. We cut back on everything, we restrict every little purchase, and we basically try to wrestle our finances back into submission. And this right here is exactly why that approach almost always fails. When you use force and restriction, your brain just pushes back. It creates resistance. And trying to motivate yourself with punishment and guilt, that's just completely unsustainable. Nobody can keep that up. Plus, all that panic and urgency, it actually blocks the one thing you need more than anything else: clarity. And this is the idea that changes the entire game. Real, lasting control doesn't come from frantically doing more or tracking more or cutting more. It comes from this really radical act of just slowing one thing down. So that's what the mindful reset is, right? It's not about punishment. It's not about starting over from scratch. It's simply about choosing one, just one, area of your spending and, for a little while, just giving it your full attention again. Think of it as an act of observation, not deprivation. And this difference in how you think about it, it's everything. A restart kind of implies that you're broken, that you need to be fixed. It's all about punishment. But a reset? Oh, that's completely different. That's about seeing things clearly. It's about gently paying attention and just watching what's happening with zero judgment. Okay, so that all sounds good, but how do we actually do it? Let's get into the plan. It's super simple, it's actionable, and honestly, that's the whole reason it works so well. We're going to call it the 7-day observation rule. There are only 3 rules here, and you really can't skip any of them. First, you choose just one category, not 5, just one. Second, you just observe it for 7 days. And third, and this is by far the most important part, you have to notice without judgment. You are not allowed to feel guilty, you can't cut back, no restricting. For this week, you're just a scientist calmly observing the data. That's it. So, what's a category? Well, it doesn't have to be the biggest, scariest part of your budget. It could be your subscriptions, your food spending, coffees and lunches out, online shopping, all those little convenience costs. And here's a big tip. Pick the category that feels noisy, the one with a ton of little transactions that you don't even think about. Don't start with the one that feels huge and terrifying. Start with something manageable. So for these 7 days, your only job is to be a detective. Just notice, when does that urge to spend pop up? What's the trigger? Is it a certain time of day, a feeling, a place? What part of the whole process feels totally automatic, like you're not even there? And what part of it feels emotional? You're just gathering clues about your own behavior. And this, right here, is where the magic happens. The simple act of paying attention, just being aware, is enough to slow down that mindless momentum. You're interrupting that automatic habit just by looking at it. And as soon as that momentum slows down, control just naturally starts to come back. So that brings us to the transformation itself. We've talked about the how, but now let's talk about the why. How does this simple act of just watching yourself create such a huge, lasting shift in your control over your money? Well, think of it like there are two different roads to get to control. The road of force, well, it just creates resistance. It requires constant, exhausting discipline, and it always feels like a fight. But the road of clarity, that's totally different. It's quiet. The control you get from it feels natural, not forced. It feels less like a battle and more like a choice. And really, if you remember one thing, let it be this. Control comes from clarity. And clarity is quiet. It's not loud and stressful. It's not a fight. It's just a calm, steady understanding of what you're actually doing. So here's what's so cool about this. When you can actually see your own patterns clearly, you don't really need to rely on that brute force discipline anymore. The desire to make a different choice, it just starts to show up on its own once you see what's really going on. And somewhere in the middle of that 7-day reset, this little subtle shift just happens. That automatic reaction gets replaced by a conscious pause. And right there, in that little pause, you stop reacting and you start choosing. And that moment, that's control. You know, at the end of the day, I think most of us struggle because it feels like our money is just moving around without our conscious permission. This whole reset isn't about taking things away from yourself. It's about giving permission back to yourself. You get to be the one who decides, intentionally, where your energy and your money go. And I really just want to leave you with this one last thought. This whole thing, it isn't really about fixing your money. It's about returning your attention to yourself. Because once you bring your own attention back to your own life and your own choices, control has a funny way of just quietly and calmly following right behind.